Hey everyone, Raghna here, presenting to you a first-person view of our little tournament we played this weekend. A straight-up knockout, so best of 3, you win, you go through, you lose, you're out. I am using replays here, however, so first-person view was requested by quite a few of you, so I'm giving you this. However, I tried recording my screen, but I kind of tend to zoom in and out a lot and very fast. So yeah, I'm using a replay instead, as with that I feel like it's not as offensive, because as a player it's alright if you zoom in and out quite a lot. You know what you're doing, but otherwise it can make you a bit seasick almost. I do really like zooming in and out, because I feel like the micro is super important. Here's Lo was asking how to get better. So I was suggesting watch my videos like you're doing now. So hopefully that helps. I'm playing ZLO here, by the way. Relatively, so he's not a new player, but I don't see him play that often recently. So I'm not very familiar with him. This is the first round, best of 3. And as I said about scrolling, if you micro, it's crucial that you see from really close up what's happening, which direction a unit is facing, and so on, which you can't do from being zoomed out, dependent on the unit and the situation, of course. But at the same time, you need to know also what's happening outside, if you're being threatened somewhere else or something like this. So being zoomed out really helps as well. So hopefully with this, with the replay version of my point of view instead of a screen recording, um, it'll be better because it smooths out the zooming in quite a bit. But if you're playing, I personally suggest crank up that scrolling as high as possible, highest setting, and then keep zooming in and out. I don't use the minimap. You notice I put away the minimap, and that's because I like this is the beginning of the game, but once you get through further, I spend a significant amount of time completely zoomed out. I personally enjoy it. At the end of the day, okay, I recommend it, but it's what fits you, and that's what you should use. All right, so let's get into it. In this tournament, I practiced core bots. I really enjoy playing with core bots, and specifically AKs is quite a good unit. It's quite cheap as well. Costs a lot of energy, but not so much metal. So since you're going on low metal units, you can kind of build up more your base, your economy, and so on, and it's a lot more affordable to do other stuff. And well, okay, core bots, AK specifically, or grunts. Let's call them by the new names, shall we? Grunts are good against pawns. If micro well, quite important to micro it well. And the vehicles on this map are not great, but even on other maps, vehicles are more expensive. That means that you will have less of them. And if you have more units than the enemy, even if they're weaker, they can be at more places at the same time than the enemy can be. This means then that if you have a lot of micro and stuff, you can try to poke holes in a lot of different places in the enemy, and he has to respawn in more places than he has units, since you have more units than he does. So that's the general idea of having more cheaper units than the vehicles would be able to have. Vehicles have a very strong advantage elsewhere, but this is what I'm trying to practice here. All right, so I'm also going to go light on light laser turrets in the beginning. I'll build a lot more of them later, but AKs, or grunts rather, are really good at holding off scouting units thanks to their range and their precise weapons with the lasers. So if you have grunts, you can get by with a lot less laser turrets in your base, especially in the beginning, let's say. So I'm going quite conservative. Another thing I've been practicing this tournament as well is moving away from nanos and building a lot of construction units. Um, and I've gotten to quite like it. Again, this is all quite how to say it. It's a difference, but it's not this is better than that. I enjoyed it here in this tournament. I enjoyed using it, but it doesn't mean that making nanos is bad. It doesn't mean one is better than the other. There are advantages to each, and I suggest finding what works for you. I'm just going to tell you what works for me here, and perhaps you can learn something from it. I wouldn't suggest always copying everything I do, but I would take away some of the things and maybe incorporate it in your play and what you'd like to do and so on. So the reason I'm going here with construction bots is a lot more flexible. Like it's easy to send them out to different places on the map, or to suddenly switch to getting them to build energy or switching them to this or that. They're a lot harder to kill from the opponent as well. If the opponent gets to raid in, it doesn't like suddenly kill all of your production. They get some energy as well, which is less important on high energy, high winds maps. Although one minimum here is really low, so it's always good to have some energy production other than wind in your back pocket. So yeah, here I'm trying to harass him at several places at the same time. I have radar coverage, so I'm gonna see quite a bit everywhere. I'm trying to distract him in some places while attacking him in other places. I see construction bot here. This is juicy, you know. Like you see something like this, like all right, you're trying to go for it, because even if this micro here of mine, it cost me quite a bit. Or elsewhere, perhaps I have an idle construction unit somewhere. And, that's quite bad. You don't want that, right? But at the same time, being able to micro those units just right, just to kill that one construction unit from the enemy is like it's like you're putting an idle con on the enemy for the rest of the game, right? So that's better than you having an idle con for a little bit. So that's why I sometimes prioritize micro over keeping your base tidy or something like this. Something you want to do, and I'm going to fail here in a bit, I believe, is when you're looking at your base, you want, specifically in grunts against pawns, you want your grunts to be moving backwards. So when you zoomed in, there we go. My grunts go straight into the pawns and they get destroyed. Pawns destroy grunts in close combat. So you want to be zoomed out while you move forward. And then when you zoom in, you want to move your grunts backwards so you have time to do other things and they're not going to get destroyed by the enemy. Now here I distract his large army with just a couple grunts, while somewhere else I'm able to attack him. That's really important. And how I do that is with control groups, and I send raiding parties or defensive parties on control groups like control 1, 2, 3. And then after that, oh, here he's attacking my commander. But luckily, I've built quite a lot of light laser turrets. So here, I offer him a bit of a anvil to strike. All right, he can try to come at me, but it's heavily defended. And if he would do, he had low chance of success and very costly attack while I'm trying to attack him elsewhere. So I attack him elsewhere to pressure him to do something in response, but his response that I'm offering is suboptimal, and that's what I'm trying to do there. All right, so you want to stay zoomed out while you're attacking, because his pawns could be attacking you at any time, and then you have to be able to respond really quickly. And then when you want to zoom into your base to go or micro somewhere else, you need to retreat your grunts to be able to have the time to do something else and make sure that the enemy doesn't like randomly attack you. And with the control groups, you send off a few units off to the enemy's base or to attack this expansion or something. You give them control 1. And then what I do is I control the rest of my army with Ctrl+z. This selects every unit of that type. And then I get reinforcements as well. I get my whole army. I don't need to like look what box I'm selecting or not selecting. And this way I get to have a lot of control over the map with not many clicks and not many keyboard presses. Um, I lose quite a bit here. It's okay. You don't have to worry too much about losing some units here and there. They're really cheap, so you can easily throw away some units to distract the enemy or to try to get like a small mechs or construction unit, as long as you only throwing grunts. So here the enemy has a big force coming to my base. I kind of ignore it. I'm thinking maybe he's gonna go do something else. Maybe he's not gonna go for my base or something like that. And then I shouldn't overreact to it. So I'm waiting until he actually gets close. And now he is. Now he's like, okay, actually he is going for my base. So I'm reacting appropriately, and I'm building some LTs with some leeway of time before he gets there. And then meanwhile, I'm attacking him elsewhere. Always important to keep the pressure up as much as possible. Now that he's here, I'm actually going to defend. I'm going to be in his base, do some damage over there, and just in time for him to come back. I have my LLTs up, and I have my small little army ready to defend. So there we go. So not overreacting, not sending your whole army from everywhere back to defend, and they're never going to get there in time anyway, because they're further from your base than the enemy is, so it doesn't even make sense to send them in the first place. But yeah, especially if you have a lot of build power, and this is quite important, I guess. If you have a lot of build power, you can build defenses quite rapidly. Air defenses, like laser turrets, doesn't matter. So that's why build power is important. Be able to react quickly, and then since you're able to react quickly, you don't have to overbuild defenses, and then you can put as much in offense as possible. So yeah, I have my hammer and anvil going here quite well. On the southwest here, I have my LLT forest, as it's colloquially called. The enemy can try to attack it. It can even send aggravators or tanks, and they will succeed. And they will punch through eventually, but it'll be really slow. If he invests a lot into that, into a slow push that accomplishes in the short term quite little, that means that in the meanwhile, I can use all those resources that I didn't put into that attack. I can put it to somewhere else to attack him and distract him and do economical advantage to his base instead. So yeah, here I feel like I'm doing quite well. I don't control half of the map, but I see that I control more of the map than he does. So I'm happy about that. So I don't feel scared. Like even if he would suddenly switch to something else, I feel like I'm quite prepared for it. You notice here when I move forwards regularly, I use the fight command. It's because grunts have a larger attack range than the pawns. That means that if you use the fight commands, as soon as the enemy gets in range, it will stop. So they will stop outside of the range of the pawn, so that's quite good. See, I retreat and then I go to my base and I go do something. And because I've retreated, I know that I'm safe and I don't have to worry about it too much. All right, I look back, everything is okay. Okay, I can go back to my base and do my thing. I'm switching to air here. I'm seeing that it's getting a little bit tougher to break through. The numbers are quite even when it comes to army and everything, and I could keep producing and everything, but I feel like I have a lot of income, I have a lot of build power. I can invest into something here and not fall too far behind elsewhere and like fear of the enemy attacking. This is the point, the ideal point where you want to do something. But I don't want my army to sit back and do nothing. I want it still to keep the enemy on the toes, and my little attacks here will tell him, okay, he's still focused on defending from my attacks. He's still focused on trying not to lose and so on, that he doesn't have time to worry too much about what I'm doing in the background. This is quite important as well. So I'm building bombers. What the bombers will achieve? Well, first and for all, I want to build bombers before the enemy sees any air and builds too many air defense in his base. And what I want to use the bombers for is to bomb his air. His air is very clumped up. I've already scouted it. I don't need a scout. Regularly, I would build a scout plane. Here, I've already seen his base. I don't need it. I want to bomb his wind. And yeah, his entire energy production is all clumped up. If I destroy that, he has 0 wind production. What I do, I press A and right click a line to over his general area of his wind, and then the bombers will do the rest. And I'm attacking him in the meanwhile, keeping him busy. So he doesn't have time to think. Does he build air defense? Does he defend against my army? I always want to keep my enemy as preoccupied as possible. I see he has nanos with my second run. I try to get his build power as well with the bombs, trying to destroy more build power, just for good measure. And yeah, this is pretty much game. Destroyed his wind production. I already had an army advantage. I bring in some drones as well. The drones are really good to build after your bombers. You've sent your bombers, all right. The enemy's going to build a lot of air defense in his base and everything. It's not worth to build more bombers. But the other thing then you can do is drones to get his army. If he attacks you, you send the drones to defend, and the enemy can't do anything. And then the enemy is very stifled in where he can attack you. MP drones, incredibly powerful. All right, no, that was the game. ZLO here, very good opponent. It was really fun to play. I hope you enjoyed it as well. I hope you learned at least something from it. We can watch the end screen here, watch the stats. All right, there we go. Interestingly here, very similar APM. I have a little bit of more mouse clicks. Here's a little bit of more mouse movements, but he doesn't use keyboard as much. So this is something that I highly recommend. Use a keyboard. It helps you a lot. I'll put some in the comment below or something about what I'm using as well. All right, no, all right. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be doing a few games for this tournament. It'll be mostly more of the same, more of this. This is kind of what I was practicing on. So if you want to see more of this, stay tuned. Otherwise, well, thanks for watching, and yeah, have a good day. Cheers.